everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Shifty's 49ers Talk. In this video, we're actually going to cover multiple topics. First, I'm going to give a pretty brief breakdown of the 49ers 27-7 win over the Seattle Seahawks. Then I'm going to talk about, of course, what's going to happen at quarterback. Jimmy Garoppolo will now be the starting quarterback with Trey Lance, unfortunately, having that serious ankle injury. Last but not least, there is some breaking news actually after the game. The 49ers have signed linebacker Dre Greenlaw to a 2-year contract extension, keeping him with the team through the 2024 season. Let's not waste any more time, guys. Let's jump right in. The 49ers get a big-time win over division rival Seattle with a 27-7 win. Now, it's no secret that the Seattle Seahawks have actually had a lot of ownage over the 49ers. It actually showed a stat on the TV that the Seahawks were 15-3 over the last 18 games between the 49ers and Seahawks. Seattle have owned us, but the Niners win this game 27-7, and we really do win this game in true 49ers Kyle Shanahan fashion. We control the time of possession, 38 minutes to 22 minutes. So absolutely dominant right there. We ran the ball incredibly well. Almost 200 yards of rushing the football. Debo with a couple of big yards. Jeff Wilson Jr., TDP, with pretty consistent yardage throughout the game as well. And then overall, we forced turnovers defensively. 2 interceptions and then 1 on special teams. Ultimately, just a really fun game to watch, of course, with the exception of the injury. But the Niners defense was fierce. It was everywhere. And we just really limited what Seattle could do. But not only that, the offense made a number of big-time plays when they really needed to. Debo breaks a big play, gets 51 yards. Jimmy Garoppolo hits Ross Dwelley. Ross Dwelley breaks a couple of tackles. Bam, right there, gets into the end zone, scores a touchdown. Something that I did see, a little bit from Garoppolo in this game, which we didn't see a ton of before. I did see him try to throw the ball down the field a little bit more, and that actually led to really, really good things. And this is why it's important to throw the ball down the field, because twice Seattle were actually called for defensive pass interference. When you have someone like a Brandon Ayuk or a Debo Samuel who are excellent, running, routes, excellent catching the ball, excellent route runners in general, that it forces the defensive backs to really, it puts them under a lot of pressure, under a lot of stress to maintain that coverage. And we saw it multiple times. So the Seahawks got called for 2 pass interference calls because Garoppolo gave Ayuk a chance. And both times, actually, Ayuk almost came up with it. So credit to Ayuk because he's a fantastic receiver. But it really, really helped the offense move the ball down the field. Funny that, right? But overall, I think the game was just really, really good. Huge confidence booster for the defense because the defense pitched a shutout. Although the Seahawks did score 7 points, of course, we remember that it was from the blocked field goal attempt that got returned for a touchdown. So this Niners defense, perfect. Forcing turnovers, didn't give up any points. You can't really get much better than that. I also really liked when we were talking about penalties that the Niners only 1 penalty for 26 yards. That was on Emmanuel Mosley. Just collided with DK Metcalf right before the ball got there. So tough play, but maybe Mosley will learn from that. But honestly, going up against a guy like DK Metcalf, never, ever an easy matchup for any defensive back. So I think the Niners defense was fantastic. The offense moved the ball fairly consistently. Could have been a little bit better, but overall, we have to be really happy with how the team as a whole played. Now let's move on to the second part of the video. Trey Lance in the first quarter gets hurt. He breaks his ankle. I didn't really see it in live. In live action, I thought he maybe got his head hit, maybe a possible concussion, but it was a broken ankle. Kyle Shanahan has confirmed that Trey Lance will have season-ending ankle surgery to repair that ankle. All I can say right now for Trey Lance is, just the amount of adversity this kid's been through. It's one of those things where the offseason, there was a lot of different distractions. Debo Samuel, Jimmy Garoppolo, of course. What's going to happen there? Eventually, look, we officially handed the reins to Trey Lance. The team, it's Trey's team. Second game of the year, first quarter, breaks his ankle. Just heartbreaking for the kid. He's only 22, so we know he's going to bounce back. We know Trey Lance is incredibly resilient. I do ultimately think that Trey Lance is going to be a better quarterback, probably a much better quarterback than a Jimmy Garoppolo. Right now, you could maybe make the argument that Garoppolo's better just because he's a lot more comfortable with the offense, having been here for 5 years and just playing a lot more football than Trey Lance. But overall, Trey Lance's ceiling and the ceiling for this team with Trey Lance is through the roof. So really excited for the future with Trey Lance. Unfortunately, we're not going to see him until 2023. But now we have to move on. James Garoppolo is going to be leading this team going forward for the rest of the year. Honestly, I would say for about 30 out of the 32 NFL teams, you lose your starting quarterback, season's done, right? Whereas with the 49ers, we actually have a very, very capable backup, a backup who's gotten us to a Super Bowl and almost won it, who's gotten us to an NFC Championship game and almost won it. So it's one of those things where I still feel very strong about this team. I still think we're a team that should be in the playoffs and also should very much still be considered a Super Bowl contender. And why is that? Well, I actually think the team could be better this year. I think once we get George Kittle back healthy next week, that should be a big boost to the offense. I like our running backs. I like actually the youth of the offensive line. I think Burford and Banks are coming along nicely. They both played pretty solid there against the Seattle Seahawks. And as the season goes on, I think they're going to get a lot better too. But the defense, it's the defense this year that really stands out compared to last season. So if Garoppolo, and I know this is asking a lot, and he just never does this, but if Garoppolo can find a way to limit his mistakes, realize that, look, we got a great defense behind us. We don't have to force the game. We can play within our own system, do what he does best, those short, quick passes, but then take those deep shots now and again. A few times every game, we should take a deep shot, and maybe we get those pass interference calls, or of course, maybe we come up with a big play. So I like that aspect of it, and I like that Jimmy even tried to hit Danny Gray in the end zone on a deep pass. So he's not, I think he's being maybe a little bit more of a gunslinger in that sense, where Jimmy Garoppolo in past would always just do quick, short passes that would still sometimes get intercepted. But hey, I think you have to keep the defense honest. And hopefully Jimmy Garoppolo sees that he will need to do that now and again in order for the 49ers to be successful this year. But in conclusion, when we look at this quarterback situation, look, I wish Trey Lance is out there. I would much rather have Trey Lance out there. But what we have to do, and it looked like the team did it today, is we have to rally around Jimmy Garoppolo. This season is just getting started, and Garoppolo has taken us very far before. There's no reason why he can't do it again, and I think this defense will be ultimately the part of the game that carries us. The defense is looking phenomenal. So let's still try to have a positive outlook on the season. There's still going to be a ton of really fun games coming up, and I still think I do believe we'll absolutely should be in the playoffs, and we should be competing for Super Bowl. So we'll see if it all shakes out that way. But then, to finish off this video, there is a little bit of breaking news. So with the 49ers, we have actually signed linebacker Dre Greenlaw to a 2-year extension. Now, Dre Greenlaw definitely caught a lot of flack for the Week 1 game against Chicago, and I think somewhat deservedly so. Lost coverage a couple of times that led to some big plays for Chicago, had the big face mask penalty, but overall I do believe that Greenlaw is a big positive for this 49ers defense. He's incredibly athletic, he's incredibly aggressive, he's incredibly physical, he does make plays. Although he didn't have any turnovers in this game against the Seattle Seahawks, he was there countless times at the line of scrimmage to meet the offensive player and basically stop him for no gain. But we have also seen him make big time plays over the years. Against Seattle, intercepting Russell Wilson. We saw him against the Lions last year, intercepting it, taking it back to the house for a touchdown. And I just like his aggressive nature, that he'll get into the backfield, cause those TFLs. So the numbers haven't yet been released about Dre Greenlaw's extension, but to me, I'm happy with the guy who's still young, still developing. We get to keep that core of linebackers, because I still believe, absolutely, the Niners have the best linebacking core in the NFL, and this goes a long way to maintaining that for the foreseeable future. But just before I leave here, guys, I want to say a huge shout out to all the new subscribers to Shifty's 49ers Talk, to everyone who was there in the stream. It was a lot of fun, despite the awful news about Trey Lance. But the Niners came away with a big win against a big division rival, and I hate the Seahawks so much, so it was so good to beat them. But anyways, guys, I'm going to leave it there. Maybe we'll do a more in-depth breakdown of the Seattle game. For sure going to be doing a preview of the Bears game, and then any other breaking news, of course, I will be covering that. But at this point, guys, I'm going to say two things. The butt counts, and I'm going to catch y'all on the flip side.